Steve Rao, the host of Pod Roku TV's World Edition. I'm here today to open up, be here with you for 3 minutes, and I'm going to run. After November 5th, I'll be with us more with the hour. I've been traveling a lot around the state and region during these elections. Today, when we talk, we're going to talk about the instability in the Middle East, America calling for Israel to scale back on their attacks on, Israel and on Lebanon and Palestine, and things are tensing with Iran. There were some airstrikes against Houthis authorized by our Secretary of Defense. We're going to talk about that. Vice President Harris had a controversial issue, not controversial, but an interesting interview with Fox News. And all eyes on the presidential race, as today in North Carolina, where Mark Lee, Kimberly, and Dave, and Nick and I live, and Jatovi, we have early voting that started. One thing I want to talk about today is where we are with the presidential race. I spoke about this on the radio, but the bottom line is that if all Democrats and all Republicans held the maps as it is today, Vice President Harris would go in with 226 votes, and former President Trump would have 218 electoral votes. This means that Harris would need 44 electoral votes to put her at 270, and President Trump would need 52 votes to get at 270. Now, the issue is the swing states. North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes. Georgia, 19 electoral votes. Michigan, 15 electoral votes. Just those four states alone. You also have Arizona. You have Wisconsin. I've got a photograph from memory, but I didn't have a strong enough copy today, so I'm blanking out. But do the math. So if she wins North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, then she wins the presidency. But right now, it's not looking like she'll win North Carolina because she's not doing very well with black voters. Trump's up by 0.9%. So I think it's really important to understand that this could be it's about the electoral college. It's going to come down to these 5 or 6 states and the final push. What's going against Harris right now is the fact that she is really being held to the fire by black men, the economy with rising prices, immigration, and she's really focusing on reproductive rights and the fact that she would be more of a centrist and lead the nation. Meanwhile, Trump is kind of going on rants, and people are now wondering whether he's mentally fit to be the president. So that's where we are, folks. Do the math. Start looking at the map. Go to 270 to win. And right now, I think we're going to know more by the end of the week of how many votes were cast in North Carolina. Georgia had 250,000 just the day before yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring on Mark Lee. I'm going to be here for about 5 minutes, and I got to push out. Sorry, I'm underdressed today, but
no problem. As I was just telling Kim, I actually just came back from an event because, as you just stated, it is early voting, and actually, there's a group that I became involved with during the pandemic called Daybreakers. It is a dance group. They did a lot of raves and other kind of things in that sense. So at Durham Food Hall, they had people that were doing early morning yoga. I did not participate in that because they were already in the middle of it by the time I got there. But then when they got to the dance part, and as I was telling Kim, they had pole dancers. They had a lined band, kind of like one of those bands, New Orleans style bands, and everything along those lines. And they also had a number of other DJ that was playing music, and then they went literally from Central Park to the Durham County Library where early voting is going on. As I said, there was already a long line. I'd actually thought about jumping in the line and getting my vote on, but I knew that I had to come here and do our podcast and all along those lines. So I'll probably go back, if not later today, later this week or early part of next week, and get into early voting. But definitely there was a number of folks that were thoroughly enjoying themselves. And like I said, I may have some pictures to bring up either later on today for this show or on for the world politics later on this afternoon. But it was definitely an exciting time, and folks were enjoying their activities and definitely were enjoying the time. And ironically, I knew a couple of the performers because Jasmine Kelly, who is a singer, and a local singer, was one of the co-hosts or a host of the event. And then there was also Atiba, who is one of the musicians, and I've known Atiba for a number of years, and he was doing African drumming and other kinds of drumming as well. Well, he's known as an African drummer, I should put it that way. But definitely it was an exciting time, and it looks like folks were having a good time. And like I was telling Kim, when I looked at the line, it was a pretty decent sized line, and that was first thing this morning. I literally left that situation at about 8:45, 9 o'clock to start heading back here to home to be able to get on this show. And there was already a lot of people out there that were going to be doing early voting. And as you know, this is a town that is very much in probably the Democratic bag because it is a Democratic town. So I imagine most of those folks were voting for Kamala Harris, even though there were probably some Trump voters out there as well.
I did. I did forget to. I did. I'm sorry. I got to run, Mark. But it's great to see Sasha. But I'll be back tomorrow for a little longer. But I did forget to mention that I'm going to try to go to the event, but it's been really hard to get in the door. But former President Clinton is going to be with Vice President Tim Walz this afternoon, and he's here for 4 days, Bill Clinton. But nobody knows where he is, and But I may go. Just to go to these events, you got to stay in line for hours, and it takes up 6 to 7 hours. But I'm working the back channels to see what I can do. It's unfortunate. I wish we could interview him, but it's basically impossible. They're not doing any media interviews, and the people they're getting them are I don't know how they're doing it, but I'm gonna try. We'll see. But
I have a question for Steve before you head out. Where are you collecting your data for the electoral results right now, so that we can all kind of look as well?
Yeah, go to 270 to win. That is a great website that really gives you all the different maps. So I've used it to be 270 to win, I think is what it is.
270
Yeah.
to win.
Yeah.
.com or org?
Let me see.
While you're asking that and everything, and while you're looking
Hold on,
at
let me find out.
while you're looking that up, Steve, the question I had, and maybe Sasha's got some observations too. I did watch a little bit of the interview between the Fox host and Kamala Harris. It started off very combative from the jump street because there was a lot of questions around immigration, and that's where they kind of started it off at. And they did go into the economy and everything. But just as a person that's on the street and is out there in the community, what are you hearing people say about that particular interview? And I've got one of the things. Go ahead.
I got it.
Well,
I found it.
it's 270towin.com. Let me give you my last analysis, and I want to hand it over to Sasha Starr, but I apologize, I got it wrong. But I think what I'm hearing is the fact that she's going on these Republican news shows does show that they're getting polling data that she's in trouble. I think it's clear to say that her polling with black men is very low compared to when Obama ran. I think that's going to cost her North Carolina. I'm seeing Asian American interest all of a sudden go down. There's a lot of Asians irritated that during Diwali and some of these religious festivals that there's been no effort for former President Clinton or even Vice President Harris or Walz to come here. So many Indians on the ground are telling me they're just going to sit it out, or they're just going to vote for Trump because they just don't believe that she wants that vote when there's 100,000 Indian voters here. So to answer your question, I think she's in trouble, and I think if the election were held today, she would lose. I think Trump is going to get to 270 before she does, unless she wins Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. And I hate to say it because I'm a Democrat, I'm voting for her, but right now, if the election were held today, Donald Trump will be reelected president.
Is it just purely because they're being selfish about her not coming to their event? I mean, did Trump show up? That's what I
heard a rumor that J.D. Vance's wife is coming to Morrisville next week.
Okay.
Yeah, she is of Indian heritage, so it'll be interesting to see if that happens or not. Now, there is some other things, and Rick, you were in the media space, so I'll throw this to you. And there is some other negative news that is out there that is hurting Kamala Harris as well, because I understand that there are accusations, and we know that these accusations can sometimes come out there of plagiarism from some of her past documents. So I just wanted your take on this.
As far as I know, and according to what I've read, it's all garbage where she cites statistics and includes the references, that she's not just copying, chunks
hey
of.
guys, I got to run.
I don't think.
Tomorrow. Thank you all. Kimberly, I'll be in touch. I need David K. Johnson's information.
Okay, call me.
So I mean, it doesn't have any traction. And do MAGA people care about plagiarism? I don't think so. And I don't think it's actual plagiarism.
Yeah.
If you're writing a nonfiction book and you're citing work by other people and you're including the names of the other people and where you took that stuff from, it's not plagiarism.
Hey, Sasha, you will find this interesting, and I'm just going to throw this to you and everything. Yesterday, when I was doing my show, the one that I am, my personal show, and as y'all know, I have a couple personal shows just like you do as well. But when I was doing the online dinner party, I was talking to one of the guests was a real estate agent, Nathan Turner, I believe is his name, and he's got a company called Earnest Investing, and he does a lot of property investing. But he lives in Canada. Don't ask me which part because I don't remember off the top of my head and everything. But he made an interesting observation because we were talking about, because two of my other guests were getting into the conversation around the division in the United States, and he made the observation that he doesn't find that same division in Canada. That once you are Canadian, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from Russia or whether you're coming from China or whether you're coming from wherever you're coming from, that y'all are Canadians, and he doesn't quite get the notion of the division that he's seeing from the United States. And a lot of his business is actually in the United States. So his companies that he's doing property is in the United States. And I know that you're in Canada as well. So would you agree with his assessment that y'all are more unified in Canada than say we are here in the United States? Because when he made that observation, I found it quite interesting.
Probably not, because even in Toronto, there are areas in the city that are dominated by one group or another. For example, Agincourt in Toronto, it's northeast. It's dominated by Chinese, and there are a lot of street signs in Chinese and so on. I'm surprised that you wouldn't notice that. For example, area of Brampton, which is northwest of Toronto. It's area dominated by Indians and Pakistanis, and there are one Indian restaurants on the northern one, and yet more. And when you're coming there, you don't feel that you're in Canada. You feel more likely that you're in India or Pakistan, most likely. So I'm surprised that he wouldn't notice it. For example, on the other hand, Bathurst Street is well known as a predominantly Jewish area of Toronto. There are enormous amount of synagogues, very large, and some smaller ones, but they're all, I wouldn't even tell you, there would be at least 25 to 30 synagogues, maybe much more. But at least I'm talking about those that you can see by driving the street left and right. So I'm surprised that he is not noticing that.
Yeah, interesting and everything. One issue that has been very much in the news in America and everything, but it's also in the news around the rest of the world as well. So we were kind of talking about it before and everything. So I'm going to throw this issue out and everything, but hear what folks have got to say about it. Apparently, Italy now has a surrogacy ban. They are banning couples from traveling abroad to seek surrogates, and some people are saying that is going to hurt the gay couples in Italy because of some of their other rules and everything. And at the same time, China apparently is ending international adoption. So, and there are some reactions that are ranging from shock to relief and everything. So I just wondering y'all's take on the notion of international rules that are changing when it comes to either surrogacy or adoption. Any thoughts around that, Steve? Not Steve, Rick. And if you got any thoughts on it, Sasha, as well, I'd love to hear them. But I saw those two. I knew that's been an issue even that folks have been talking about with the campaigns, because I know that one of the ads that I keep seeing popping up on my television is the trans ad that Trump is playing to try to say that population is getting preferential treatment for like.
Well, this is the first I've heard of it. Italy's a Catholic country, but they also have terrible politics. Some of their politicians are as bad as our politicians. They had Berlusconi running the country for like a decade. He was wildly corrupt and also a child rapist. So I don't know. Maybe it's just more bad Italian politics.
It could be more bad Italian politics. That's quite possible. And I do know that there was a time that folks were going. There was even a time that because I had friends that were getting kids adopted from some of the Eastern European countries, maybe less so now because of the war in Ukraine. But I do remember having even a musician friend of mine that adopted a number of kids that were from the Eastern Bloc and everything. And I do know some people that adopted, I think, Chinese or Asian kids as well. So are we going to see more countries ending international adoption? What is your take on that, Sasha? Because like I said, I've known some people that their children were actually adopted from other countries. And like I said, some of them were way before the pandemic from Eastern European nations, because I think some of these kids might be teenagers now.
Well, adoptions, of course, happening here and there. I don't see any trend or any countries that are notoriously different from others. For example, in case of Ukraine, the biggest helper to Ukraine, accordingly to adoptions as well, and overall help to adopt a new country, is definitely Poland by far. They already brought in about 3 million Ukrainians, and they provide food and place to stay and work and study, medicine, and just almost anything. Now, that makes Poland unique. Not really. There are other countries who are helping a lot, especially Romania, Czech Republic, but because these countries are much smaller than Poland, so that you cannot favorably measure one against another. Now, countries like in Western Europe, France, Germany, and so on, they're helping by no means, not as much as Poland, not nearly as much, but they do. However, I just came across the breaking news. Apparently, it looks like Sanwar, the leader of Hamas, has been killed.
Yep, I did see that. I was going to get to that, and there was some questions as to whether, I guess they're trying to confirm that, but yeah, they did say that our Israel military is checking the possibility
That's
that
right.
he's been killed. So has it been confirmed that he's been killed? Because I know they were investigating.
No, hasn't been confirmed yet, but they have, because he was spent already some time in Israeli prison. So they have his DNA, they have his fingerprints, and so therefore it's obvious that it will be today. Yes, it's been him, or no, it was somebody else. We'll know it today.
Yeah, we'll know also the other thing that was coming out of the Middle East was apparently U.S. Struck an Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. So definitely, and Israel had that attack in Lebanon. So it does look like the war is expanding, because even the U.S. is getting involved, because, like I said, they struck a Houthi weapon site in Yemen. So it does look like there is an expansion into the war and everything along those lines. So any thoughts about the expansion of the war? Because, like I said, I didn't even know, but apparently these were U.S. stealth bombers that struck this particular weapon site in Yemen.
Well, it's obvious Yemen will be taken out one way or another, and probably within a week. It's a done deal with Yemen. They're all walking dead. I mean, it's just okay. This guy has 3 days to leave. The other guy maybe 4 days, but no more than a week. It's done. Now, about Hezbollah, they're uncovering now enormous places where they keep their ammunition and weapons. Most of the weapons are Russian made. So this is now right in the open that this Russia, who is behind Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and all that stuff. And because Ukraine has the same enemy now, Israel, now there will be meetings. I think they're starting today, if I'm not mistaken, between Zelensky and Netanyahu. And because both Ukraine and Israel, they are being helped by Western countries, NATO, United States, and many others. So that would be very obvious that there would be a broad coalition of Western powers, including Ukraine and Israel, against this horrible triangle between Russia, North Korea. North Korean soldiers are now fighting in Ukraine, by the way, 10,000 of them. And Iran, China is somewhere on the background. China is helping all of them, but they're doing it very cautiously because they don't want to run into United States sanctions.
So one of the things that we heard about during World War, I believe it was World War II, was this notion of the allies versus the axis of evil and all along those lines. So is your opinion that we are heading back toward a similar kind of situation where the country will be basically, or the world will basically be divided into two categories and all along those lines? Because I mean, definitely there was a coalition of enemies that we had during that time as well, that included definitely some of the Asian countries and Italy and Germany and a number of other countries. But do you think that we're heading toward that kind of division worldwide?
It's already happening. We don't have to wait for it. It's already happening. It's quite obvious. The only thing is the Axis countries like Russia, North Korea, and Iran, they've been already cooperating for quite some time, and they are very focused. They're very determined to achieve a victory. For them, it's a matter of survival. And the West really didn't want to fight that war or wars or so on. They wanted to wait and see, well, maybe the war will not take place. Oh, yeah, now it's taking place. Okay, so we'll help a little bit to this country and maybe some other countries. There is no commitment of the West to fight this war. Not until something will happen similar to 9/11, for example. Then it would obviously will bring U.S. and the West to the war. But right now, because it was similar to Pearl Harbor in 1941, well, if it wouldn't happen, the United States wouldn't enter the war. They would keep helping UK, but that's about it. But Pearl Harbor, that changed everything. So once such an event will happen in England or somewhere else, so they will keep sort of helping, but in a way, it's not real help. But we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see how it plays out. But Sasha, one of the other countries that a lot of people, and earlier Steve was here, talked about them being maybe more neutral or not having a side one way or the other, is India. And as we know, there's been some diplomatic rows between India and the country that you currently call home, which is Canada. So I just wanted your take on this diplomatic row going on between Trudeau and the Indian government.
Because I hate Trudeau, I'm not taking his side at all. And however, they might have some evidence that foul play was committed. So I think it should end up in court, and both sides will have to produce whatever they get on each other.
I mean, one difference between World War II and now is that World War II was a hot war with tens of millions of people being killed, and now what we're in is a Cold War and a cyber war where China attacks us, I don't know, hundreds of times a day with cyber attacks, and I assume we attack back. And there's a reluctance among, I think, all countries to move into full scale, international war, except for Russia. That we live in a world full of nuclear weapons. India and Pakistan each have nuclear weapons. They've had them for, 40 years, 50 years. They haven't used them against each other. In fact, there's in northern Pakistan, there's a disputed, I guess, is it Kashmir? I don't know, where they fight with rocks and stones between the two countries to avoid escalation to guns. So it's Cold War around the world.
It's definitely a Cold War around the world and everything like that. But I want to get back to the national politics and all along those lines. So I saw Toby was with us, and maybe Kim's got some thoughts as well. Like I said, I did watch part of the discussion between the Fox host and Kamala Harris, and there was definitely some contentious issues there. And Toby, as I was telling him at the beginning, I just came back from a march to the polls, which was done by Daybreakers and everything. But I was just wondering your take on this whole notion of that contentious interview. I know that he's been defending himself. I think it's trying to remember the name. I think it's Bear or something like that, the host and everything.
Red Bear.
He's been defending himself as to both the nature of the interview as well as when it took place. He did say that she was tough And there are some people that say that she was avoiding answers and everything. But like I said, I only saw parts of the clip, and it was definitely contentious. But I was wondering your take on the interview and whether it hurt or helped her.
Well, it for those who love Kamala, it was great. For those who dislike Kamala, it was she avoided or whatever. It all depends on how people view it in the middle. For me personally, and I, trying to take any allegiance or views or any ideas, because yes, I think Kamala Harris right now should be the president because of everything that who she is, because character matters to me. But in terms of taking all that out, but looking at the interview itself, I thought she did okay. I thought she did good because of the nature of the interview. The interview was like coming on here. You only get five or six words in, and somebody interrupts, and so Brit Baier was interrupting and talking over her when she was trying to answer a question. Brit Baier, Fox News is a very hostile environment for anybody on the other side. Pete Buttigieg does a great job on Fox when he pushes back, and that's what Kamala Harris did. And it got hostile. The biggest question that it was really hostile over was when she on the immigration question to start with out of the gate, and trying to look at it how when Trump went to the black journalist function, and out of the gate it was a tough question for him. She handled that question a lot better than the way Trump handled it. Throughout the whole time it being contentious, she handled the whole conversation better. So, I mean, taking all politics, all views, and everything else, I think she did a good job going into a hostile environment that was basically wanting to push talking points for Trump and Fox News. I mean, that's what Fox News does. So I thought she did fine. It's hard to get detailed. I hate hearing she's evading answers when she's answering the question. She's not giving details when nobody gives details, and holding her to a specific curve that nobody else is being held to. So those arguments I threw out the window in the first place because they're craptastic arguments. Also, let's not forget at the same time that was going on, I think it was a few moments later, there was Trump doing the Univision interview or town hall, the same one that Kamala Harris did last Thursday, which that was pretty bad because he was asked a direct question: what do you say to the kids of school shooters or that have been affected by school shooters? Trump said, well, we have the Second Amendment, and went so it was just
Yeah, I've not been able to figure out this logic of his because, like I said, I saw that commercial too where it's after he's been shot and he gives the fist salute and all along those lines, but it's supposed to be a commercial touting the fact that there is the Second Amendment. And in my mind, I'm going like, weren't you just shot by a gun? So why are you defending that part of the Second Amendment when you were literally just shot by a gun and not a knife or some other weapon and everything? So like I said, I did not quite get that commercial, but then again, I'm not the one that
I'm not understanding if he's trying to get rid of the Second Amendment, amend the Second Amendment. What are his intentions? He just spouts out words. I don't think anyone really knows what he's going to do. When Rick finishes, I would like to share a video and see if anyone knows anything about some of these facts that were shared. Go ahead, Rick.
So the main difference between this election in 2016 and 2020 is there are fewer than 5% of voters who remain undecided. So none of these things that each of them does. Trump does a lot of weird stuff. Harris is doing a ton of interviews, but there's nobody there are no more voters to capture for the most part. Harris has been flat at 48.5% in the polls for the past 5.5 weeks. The last change was when Kennedy dropped out and Trump picked up 1% more of Kennedy's people than Harris did. Since then, each candidate has been flat. If you want to look at other stuff, you can look at early voting. About 3 million people are voting every day between now and the election. And women are outvoting men by 10% in the states that release those kind of numbers. That's almost identical to 2020. So, I mean, there are signs. If you want to be optimistic about Harris, that's an optimistic sign. Democrats are outvoting Republicans, but that always happens early, about 51% to 30%, with 20 being independents. So all those are signs that it kind of looks like a 2020 election. But again, none of the crap that each side is doing is changing anybody's mind.
Well, speaking of that, and
I
know you
agree.
got
I
those
have a
videos.
question to ask about the women that are getting out there to vote compared to the last election. At the end of the election time period, did more men finally show up, or did majority men show up? Because maybe these are
But
women.
I can tell you, in last, it was.
Because I'm thinking it's women who are just proactive.
I have those statistics. At last
Okay.
election, it was about 53% women, 47% men.
Wow.
But it's been that way for the past. Women have outvoted men for the past 20 years.
Yeah, they've
And
been
we
out.
still get it wrong.
Yeah, I
But
don't
I
think
do have a question that I don't quite get and everything. Maybe somebody can explain to me, because another one came out recently. What is it with the ultra nationalists, or those that are super nationalists, now throwing their support behind Jill Stein? Because I think Nick Fontes did that, and I just recently heard that David Duke, who is a known Klansman, did that as well. So I'm trying to figure out what is their game plan, because it makes no sense to me, because that's like opposite ends of the spectrum. So.
I think they feel that Trump has let them down in some ways. But you're always going to get a lunatic vote who wastes their votes on, Jill Stein is not proven to be capable of anything. She's never won any election. She's never tried to run in an election smaller than the presidency.
But I guess what I'm asking is, why would the ultra right be supporting what? Because to me, Jill Stein is what, part of the Green Party, so that'd be like the ultra left. So why is the ultra right supporting the ultra left?
Because of what Jill Stein has done in her past, and it's the fact that Jill Stein dealing with Russia, going and being a guest wherever, all this stuff. People see Jill Stein as another. I think what Rick pointed out, or what just pointed out, is correct. Is that now that RFK is gone, and RFK is with Trump, that group is feeling like they've been left behind. So they're trying to gravitate to anybody. And Jill Stein, they don't care about the policies, really. Jill Stein says some dumb stuff, but they're just throwing their support there because they don't want. It's a protest vote against Trump. However, that's why I think Trump is getting darker and darker, not only due to his age, because we get into this get off my lawn thing the older we get, but he's getting darker and darker for that. But he's also getting darker and darker to try and attract those people that he knows he's losing. Just listening to his interviews, his rallies, everything is really very dark. Everybody's coming to kill you. Everybody's coming to take your job. I'm the only savior. So it's just very dark and hateful. And that's what the Fuentes group thrives off of, hating the other. And that's why the migrants, and that's why black people and brown people, he's going to mass deport anybody and it's just horrible. But that's what people are, they're baked in. Similar to, honestly, in an analogy, he feels that he has the MAGA wing regardless what he says, which is true. The same way Kamala Harris feels that she has some leeway or has a lot of the Democrat Party. The reason Kamala Harris is reaching out and building a broader coalition with the Republican Party is because she knows she has some leeway. and she's not going to the Republican Party and becoming Republican. No, what she's trying to do is attract those Republicans, those Republicans who just hate it.
But
So
it's got some things that she wants to show. But before we get to that, Sasha, I had a question for you and everything, because one of the things that's going on is this notion of immigration, but it seems like it is a international issue, because I just read earlier today that von der Leyen is promising to increase the EU deportations, which is the European Union. So it looks like this is an issue, immigration, that isn't just a United States issue, but it is a worldwide issue. Even Poland, which you alluded to earlier, is pointing to its weaponization in terms of migration. So is this whole notion of migration and migrants coming into a country a global issue? Because it sounds like it is, based on what I'm hearing from the EU.
I don't think it's a global issue because, for example, Poland, while being member of European Union and NATO, and is supposed to follow the party line, they made it very clear. Look, Poland is for Poles only, period. That's it. The end of story. Now Russia is trying to bring some of their people through Poland to European Union using the visa they would obtain in some European consulates. Poland says you are not allowed on the Poland's land. Go through the ocean, fly to the moon. You can do anything what you want, but you cannot land on Poland's soil. The end of story. So they have to now look how else they want to bring it. This we are talking about a few people, maybe 60,000, no more than that. There were attempts last year to bring Muslims through Belarus to the border of Poland and then bring them into Poland and then further to European Union. Poland says, okay, we are going to shoot. Anybody who will attempt to go through the border will be shot to death, period. You want to see it? No, nobody wants to see it, so they went down and they were probably flown back to their countries. Now, there is example of Germany. Germany, when Angela Merkel, she was Reichskanzler, so she had very pro-immigration policy. She brought an enormous amount of people, mostly Muslims, to Germany. Now they're complete reversal. Now they don't want to bring any more Muslims. They want to take out those that already came. It's too late. It's difficult. A lot of people are unhappy about it. Okay. Now here is the United States. They don't have clear immigration policies. So people are coming legal, illegal through the south border. It's clear that the United States needs immigration more than any other.
Frozen.
I
But
think
Because there are so many jobs. Okay? But
I
we'll
agree.
see.
I agree that we're probably going to need the immigrants to help us rebuild the mountains. I think instead of doing a mass deportation or whatever Trump is going to do, snapping his fingers to get rid of them instantly, which scares me. I think that we could identify who they are, get them registered, pay them for work, and get them to pay taxes back in, which is going to be very important if Trump is in office. But I think this is God gives you gifts if you believe in God, or the gifts are here. I think it's a matter of finding the solution and not making it a problem. But, they sit there and they go, oh, we got 20 million and so many of them are criminals. Well, how do they know? How do they know how many of them are actually criminals? How do they know that they were imported as criminals? Did somebody identify them as they crossed the border? I mean, I'm really confused by the data and information that the Republicans are sharing when there's actually no means to sit there and tell me you have the real data to support it, because if you did, then we wouldn't have this problem to begin with. And yeah, go ahead, Rick, and then I'd like to share a video.
All right. So, I mean, the U.S. population growth is the lowest of all time, less than 0.5% a year. And we're only making about 80% as many babies as we would need to keep our population steady. The only thing that keeps our population steady and growing just a tiny bit is immigration. We can certainly absorb the people we're getting. The well-documented statistics taken over the past 20 years show that immigrants, both legal and illegal, have lower crime rates than native-born Americans, which makes sense if you're risking your life. If you're throwing away your entire old life to try to come here, you're likely to not want to F it up by doing crime. If you live in LA and you see the way immigrants drive, they're not breaking the law. They're driving really slowly and safely, and it's very frustrating to be behind somebody driving the speed limit. But yeah, they tend to break fewer laws.
All they're doing, to answer your question, Kim, is using immigrants as a boogeyman.
Exactly.
That is all they're doing. It is fear. It is
fear.
The idea, this notion that they're coming for your jobs, the white replacement theory, which has been a part of our history for years, comes out of that racist bigotry, that racism and bigotry that has always been a part of our country. And that's all that is, hey, they're coming to, they're releasing all these criminals. No, they're not. It's factually untrue. When they spread these numbers of, they let in 20 million, that's just an arbitrary number that they'd use. These there are 13,000 known criminals. Well, most of them are in jail. It was over a 40-year study that this came out of in terms of the number of 13,000 that they got to. 40 years. So you're creating this boogeyman to attack these individuals. Like what's going on in Springfield is really even worse, is the fact that these individuals are legally here. These individuals have saved Springfield in terms of the businesses because the companies were begging for employees. They came in, they're working hard and everything else. Now Trump and Vance are talking about taking their legal status away and mass deporting them. That is
despicable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Let me just, before you show your video, let me just talk quick in more detail about driving in LA. So Whitey wants to go 10 miles, including me. I want to go 10 miles over the speed limit, but somebody's in front of me going the speed limit. And then eventually I get next to him so I can send hate rays at them, and I see who they are. And lately it's mostly people who are just, texting. But it used to be you get next to them and it's like, oh, it's somebody from Mexico. It's like, I understand. You don't want to get in trouble. Or or it's an older black man and it's like, oh, you've been pulled over by the cops for no reason for the past 30 years. Like once every couple of months you get pulled over for bullshit. And so you're not going to break the speed limit. So
Rick,
I agree with
a question real quick, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, I gotta ask you this question, Rick. This is why I love you, because I think you started the comment with Whitey wants to go.
Okay, so Whitey has an
Whitey
Audi.
wants to go fast.
Whitey has an Audi. Audi commercials tell you. Audi commercials tell you if you drive an Audi, you're special and you can do whatever the F you want.
It's like Foamy the Squirrel. Let's watch this real quick because I want to emphasize how fear and lies have become so irresponsible. It's created more danger for us, but also how Trump actually did exactly the same things that he accused Biden of. He actually did, in fact, take disaster relief funds and he did give them to immigrants. It was over 155 millions. But I'll play this back for you.
Landed in storm-ravaged Georgia today and almost immediately began lying about the federal government's response to Hurricane Helene, the deadliest storm to hit the United States mainland since Hurricane Katrina. As the Southeast is still reeling from the deaths of 218 people at least and immeasurable destruction, the former president falsely claimed there isn't enough money for hurricane relief.
It's been a terrible response from the White House. They're missing $1 billion that was used for another purpose.
In reality, Congress just gave FEMA another $20 billion last week for its disaster relief fund. The Department of Homeland Security says it will need more to make it through the rest of hurricane season, but also noted that there is enough for the immediate rescue and recovery needs from this storm. Yet Trump is claiming that there isn't because, according to him, that money is already being used to deal with the flow of migrants at the southern border.
We're missing $1 billion they gave them to the migrants that came in, and now we don't have the money. We'll do it, but they don't have the money to take care of. That's why they're giving you lousy treatment in North Carolina. Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank. They've given over $1 billion to illegal migrants that came in, and now they have no money.
That is not true. FEMA says no disaster funds were used to shelter migrants. They are two separate programs, actually, both approved and funded by Congress. But you know which president did do that? The 45th. Back in 2019, when Trump was still in office, his administration pulled $155 million from disaster relief funds to pay for migrant holding facilities. That means that when Trump was president, he did exactly what he is accusing Biden of doing, taking cash from disaster funds to pay for migrant programs at the southern border. Now, all of this is coming after Trump accused the administration of also going out of its way to not help Republican areas, a notion that was debunked by Republican governors.
I'm incredibly appreciative of the rapid response and the cooperation from the federal team at FEMA.
There's 100% federal money flowing in.
We're getting assistance, and we're asking for everything we need.
Yeah, Rick, you had something you wanted to add?
So, I mean, this is true conservatives loathe Trump. He's not really a conservative, but most of them are afraid to speak out against Trump because it will kill their political careers.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it is fear of killing their political careers and all along those lines. I saw Kim was back. I did have one other question, and one other issue that I wanted to get to that we've done a lot with the politics and everything along those lines. But is everybody else concerned, or am I the only one that is concerned? Because there is this notion of what's going on with our water. And I mentioned that the hunger crisis and everything, but there is a report, I think it was on CNN, that says the system that moves water around the earth is off balance for the first time in, I think, human existence. And they're saying that half of all global food is threatened by a growing water crisis. So it looks like our world food supply is being threatened. And I know one time, Rick, you were talking about the bird flu, but this seems even like a bigger issue. So I know we're concerned about the war and the possibility of war, but if we don't have any food, we've got an even bigger problem, because they said 1/4, that's 1 out of 4 of the world's crop is threatened by this water risk. So is anybody else concerned about this, or because that's going to also drive up prices?
I've tried to invest in water companies because water shortages are the future. The U.S. has it's the housing crisis in the U.S. is partly a water crisis because we have a ton of land in the western half of the U.S., but the Southwest is irrigated basically only by the Colorado River, which doesn't have anywhere near enough water to do what everybody wants it to do. So you could build a ton of houses out here in the desert, but how are you going to get water to the people?
Well, even worse, if you want to, I mean, you can talk about the houses, but remember, AI is on the way. AI is a huge power consumer. Microsoft, Apple, Google are all investing in nuclear power plants. Mm-hmm. what do you use to cool those nuclear reactors? So
Water.
now with these large investments in these nuclear power plants, now with the battle, just to bring on the amount of power that's necessary for these AI devices or AI components, which AI is being used by the federal government right now to find finding different money stuff. I forget the description right offhand right now, but yes, water is a big problem. I mean, the coral reef itself is whitening. That is disastrous because once the coral reef dies,
White equals dead. Bleaching, when they turn white,
Yep.
they're dead.
Yep.
Well, I will say this. I have friends that dedicate a lot of time, and I've been down to Miami and watching researchers rebuilding coral reef, because what happened was the coral reef could not rebuild itself as fast as it was dying. And they have developed some means that where the coral reef is growing at double the pace it used to. So there have been a lot of efforts. What a lot of people don't understand is the coral reef provides a great amount of our oxygen, and the loss of it is tremendous to humanity. So, we do need to pay attention to the coral reef. Money needs to be invested in it, unless we're going to all wear oxygen tank. I don't know where the oxygen is going to come for the oxygen
but
tank.
Kim, just to let you know,
We have a guest.
Jan Cromartie is joining us. He's joining us from Wisconsin. He's actually a Durham activist, a Durham person that's done a lot of voting and health issues and a lot of things like that. But he's been doing campaigns, I believe, for the Harris campaign in Wisconsin and in Milwaukee. So he can give us a on the ground report as to how it is looking at a battleground state. So Jan, tell us how your campaigning and canvassing is going and what it looks like in that particular battleground state. So what is it looking like in Wisconsin from what you've seen? You've been there now for a couple of weeks.
No, good evening. I hope you guys are well. Milwaukee is cool up here, but we do have an event today at Milwaukee, Wisconsin University. I will be attending, and it's kind of looking like real even here. As you all know, we are swing state, like our state is a battleground state. So we're here fighting the hardest as we can. Whoever supporting whoever they support, I hope y'all supporting the person I'm supporting. I think if Mark didn't say I was working with the Harris Wash campaign, I can't ask y'all who to vote for, but I want you to think rational. But again, it's my pleasure standing in with you guys. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Yeah, no problem at all. How is it going with the canvassing? Are you having to run across a lot of people that are pro-Trump, or are most of the people you're talking to in Milwaukee going for Kamala, or are you finding it's a combination of both?
Well, I'm seeing more Kamala signs, and I'm not saying that because trying to be impartial, but I am seeing more Kamala signs here. The energy is strong here for Kamala and Walsh. I went to a Milwaukee Fest where I got me some photos with Governor Walsh, great guy. I hadn't personally seen Harris until she was at my church at St. Joseph's when she was vice president. But everything is looking up here with the campaign for us, and I'm just excited about the 5th of November. So hopefully you guys get out and vote wherever you reside at. And like I said, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I will hope you all vote for the right person.
Sounds good.
I thank you so much for on the ground report, and I hope we see you throughout the campaign, because I love your energy and personality about all of this, and thank you for volunteering because it takes people like you to get people up and out voting. Are you seeing more people at the polls?
Yes, Lord. We actually don't start like North Carolina started today. We actually start early voting on the 22nd, believe it or not. I will be working the general election at a precinct, and I got training on the same day, the 22nd. I'm here in a different capacity, but they begged me to work at the general elections. I'm kind of feeling a little jitters because you know how crazy is getting across the United States. Let's hope nothing happens with either party or whoever voting, that people act with calmness, with peace, with love, and let's pray on it. A fervent prayer. But like I say, Mark, I hadn't been here 2 weeks. I've been here since August the 20th.
Okay.
Wow.
And I will return to my great, God willing, to the great Bull City on November the 10th. Now, you all gonna help me celebrate my birthday, because I'm a veteran, and my birthday on November the 11th on Veterans Day. So I expect a big 5-layer red velvet cake from all you guys.
I will give you a shout out too, Mark. Make that arrangement. I can't eat red velvet cake, but we'll make sure you get one.
Rick, you had a thought or a question?
Yeah, as you said, early voting, in-person early voting doesn't start in Wisconsin for another 5 days, but over 260,000 voters in Wisconsin have already returned their vote by mail ballots.
Wow.
That is great. That is super great. And I sent my absentee ballot to North Carolina. I requested it on the 16th. You know, of course, we had to move it back with the debacle with Robert Kennedy and everything, but I sent mine in. And believe it or not, they actually charged me 50 cents to get it notarized. I asked the people at the post office, I said, Lord, you guys must be Republicans. They said
50 cents to notarize. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't have any witnesses. You know, I didn't have, like you guys, I didn't have any witnesses there to verify anything about me. So I didn't mind doing that. And they told me, Mark and you great folk, that when I went there for 2 days, that they had actually called me and they relocated the area from Roxborough Street in the library. And it's right there on the side of City Hall on Mangum. So the Board of Elections, for you, FYI, has relocated if anyone is looking for it now. Daniel Lassiter, Deborah, and Derek. Derek Bowen is the head of the Board of Elections, Durham County, doing a super job under what everyone dealing with. Durham decided, Judge Governor Cooper, we were the deciding factor, if you guys didn't know, with Governor Cooper. I was a district delegate for the Democratic Party twice. I'm with an organization called the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, where I was health chair and worked with people like Deputy Secretary Mark Benton, who's still there. I had him at a farm at Mark's job at the hay time. So I have a lot of dealings with the Democrats. I know you all got to go, but I have a lot of dealings with
Jan, before we go and everything, because this is a question that Kimberly asked me, and I didn't really have an answer, but you've been involved in politics for a while. How do we pick the delegates for the Electoral College? Because you mentioned how you were picked as a delegate for the Democratic Party, but do you know how the delegates are picked for the Electoral College? And if so, have you ever known one of those delegates?
I think it has to do with the Senate. I'm not accurate how many senators everyone has, because I think North Carolina has about 8 electorates or 9.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because Pennsylvania has the highest there. And I can find that information out easily, and I can pass that on to you, Mark.
Actually, North Carolina has 16.
So that makes sense. That would be double. So the 16 makes sense.
We have 16 delegates? I mean, electorates?
Yeah.
Wow.
According
how many
to the chart, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just reading the chart.
Yeah,
well, Pennsylvania, well, guess Pennsylvania has 19 or 20 something, because they have the highest number of electorate. That's why Trump and Harris spending quality time there, like they do in Michigan. The governor working hard in Michigan. Tammy Baldwin is our person here, senator here, that I gave their campaign. She's the first openly LGBTQ plus person, I think, as governor in the whole United States.
Oh, wow. amazing and everything. But we're going to get on out of here. But I appreciate you coming in, Jan, and hopefully you can come in on
Thank
some
you so
other
much. We
reports
look
as
forward
well.
to
So we're glad to have a man on the street, as we like to call it.
Okay,
out
you know
there
what to
in
tell him?
Wisconsin.
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is what Biden says. He always says, Lord, I forgot it, but I'm not going to keep.
Come back.
You know that saying that Biden says, but I forgot it. But anyway,
Come
it's my
back and
pleasure.
share, and we will.
I will. Y'all have a good one.
Take care.
Good day.
Bye bye.